One of the most important things this offseason is going to be the offensive coordinator search for the Chicago Bears, and Ben Johnson has already put in a request to interview 3 candidates for that offensive coordinator position. He's been turned down by one. We're going to talk about what that means, what they could bring to the Chicago Bears. Plus, we're going to look at the Chicago Bears running back room and ask, how ready and how confident are we in this group heading into the 2026 season? We're talking about, 26 offseason. We're talking about that. Plus, with Ben Johnson running the show, but who's stepping up in that OC role? We're going to talk about all that and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And the 2025 season was really a season that it was about establishing Ben Johnson as the Chicago Bears head coach. Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams as the franchise quarterback, of course, but what Ben Johnson brought to this team as far as accountability, as far as a standard, as far as the culture that we're now building here as well, right? And the Bears making that shift from rebuilding to competing. And us seeing all that happen and unfold right in front of our eyes over the course of 2025, it was great to see. Now, it doesn't mean that everything was perfect, but we got to see a number of things. The rookie, Shine, Kyle Monangai, Luther Burden, Colston Leveland, like these guys all slowly but surely started having huge impacts on the Chicago Bears and therefore are a big part of the Chicago Bears' future. The revamped offensive line. The Bears had a top 3 offense last year, and there's just no doubt about it that was a large part due to Ben Johnson, Declan Doyle, all those type of things that came into here and helped this team make that next step. And Ben Johnson is one of the reasons why there's reason to have confidence with the Chicago Bears. Now, some Bears fans that have been long-term Bears fans have known. We've had some coaches that have come in here, had great first seasons, and then it's kind of gotten disappointed after. The return on investment got less and less over time. I'm looking at you, Matt Nagy, but I don't get that feeling with Ben Johnson, and it does not seem like the majority of the fan base. There are some that share that. I won't say that there aren't anybody in the fan base that has some concerns or whatever else. You know, it is what it is. I mean, and Ben Johnson he made some rookie head coach decisions. He'll be the first to tell you there are some decisions that Ben Johnson made. Even in that last game, the last playoff game, there were some decisions that were made there that were evident. You know, you think about the game or towards the end of the season where Ben Johnson, you saw him verbally on the sideline, said, "Damn, I should have went for it." Like so, you see the growth and learning curve is still there for Ben Johnson as well. But there's so many things that Ben Johnson has showed that deserve trust from the Chicago Bears organization, and I think that we're going to get to that, right? So, but Ryan Poles was on Sirius XM NFL radio, and he was asked about Ben Johnson and the coaching style of Ben Johnson and how that helped Caleb Williams. He said this: he, as in Ben Johnson, set the tone early, communicated clearly what the expectations were, and Caleb was all in for it. And that's what he was looking for. It's one thing to say it, but then when we got into the practice field, you could see that come alive. If it wasn't done the right way, we were going to do it again. We were in our meetings. Caleb was kind of laughing about it, doing a long drive drill and starting it over 5 times. Johnson was going to make sure it was done the right way, and you could see the growth through that. Now, many people will remember, it was the rookie minicamp? Like the first minicamp where Ben Johnson did not play that shit. Him and Eric Bieniemy were out there setting a tone early, and that was for the rookies that were just coming in. That was the first and second year players that were just coming in to this team, and we saw that, right? And you look at the pre-snap penalties that we were having at the beginning of the season, and while it didn't completely get eliminated, we slowly but surely got better on that. Ben Johnson has set an expectation here, and that is that you are going to have to perform a certain level to play for him, right? Now, of course, Ben Johnson also had to learn over the course of the season that there are just some things about Caleb Williams' game you got to give him a little bit of freedom to do. But I think that we saw that, and that's when you started to see Caleb really thrive at it, right? Ryan Poles got his guy with Ben Johnson. And, that's the important part here. Ben Johnson knew that he had to come in here and he had to set high expectations for everybody from the team, and it started with Caleb Williams. And those expectations reverberated throughout the whole entire roster. You remember the players that they had to talk to about their body language and things like that. Like Ben Johnson really, really studied these players, He studied what they did, what they didn't do, and realized what he had to come in here and what he first had to call, right, and get out of the Chicago Bears, the Eberflu, as we call them. He had to get that out of this team and get that stench off this team and really start rebuilding something new. And we've done that. And so now having Ben Johnson established here, even with us losing our offensive coordinator, even with us losing Eric Bieniemy, a big part of the reason to have faith in the Chicago Bears is because of Ben Johnson. And now Ben Johnson gets to start his offensive coordinator search, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But it's just good to hear that the chemistry between Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson is just as important with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. There have to be lock and step, right? There has to be a shared vision, a shared goal, and a shared way that you want to get there, right? And a path. And that's what we're seeing here. And while you have some less educated Chicago Bears fans that thinks that Ben Johnson is making all the decisions here, which is still just ridiculous to think, it's that synergy between Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles that really could help this team finally get out and stay out of where we were as a franchise for so long. Now we just got to see it continue to build here. And I tell you what, I'm excited about the prospect of it building here and excited about where we continue to get this going forward. Now, with that said, one of the most important things this offseason is the offensive coordinator role, right? Like, we lost Declan Doyle and Ben Johnson. I talked about a couple of episodes, or maybe it was just yesterday's episode, how the offensive coordinator search had been quiet. And while I did think the Chicago Bears, J.T. Barrett, Antoine Randall could very much promote from internally, Ben Johnson is now set and started requesting interviews with offensive coordinator candidates. Now, the first that we're going to talk about is that he actually got turned down. So this was according to CBS Sports, is that the Bears requested to interview Cincinnati Bengals wide receivers coach Troy Walters for their offensive coordinator position, but he did decline. Now, Walters would have been a very good get, right? You look at what he's gotten as far as offensive coordinator looks over the last few years. He's choosing, though, to stay with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, which is perfectly fine. But hey, at the end of the day, Ben Johnson, he doesn't want a lot of turnover. He doesn't want guys that aren't going to want to be here for years and continue to build what they started to establish here right now. And so it's really important to get your assistants right. And so listen, while the Chicago Bears aren't going to be able to interview him, Troy Walters turned it down. The Bears do have some interviews that do look like they're going to be picked up as well. And so with that said, Chicago Bears also put in a request to interview, and this comes from Ian Rappaport, the passing game specialist of Connor Senger, who for their offensive coordinator role. Again, he's a passing game coordinator right now with the Arizona Cardinals. He did previously interview with the Green Bay Packers and Buffalo Bills for their quarterback roles. And when you look at Connor Senger and what he brings to this team, this is a guy that was probably unexpected. I didn't even bring his name up when we talked about the potential guys, even externally, that the Bears can go out and get there, right? But when you look at it, he's been a relatively unknown coach, before he started getting look at those quarterback. And we talked about like what Ben Johnson wanted to do with Declan Doyle. He got Declan Doyle, who was a young, innovative offensive mind, and many people said he could be the next Ben Johnson. Now, the thought process there was that the Bears got him early before he really started on these offensive coordinator roles. But with the progress that the Bears made last season, it put him on the radar, right? Senger joined Bill Bidwell Fellowship for the Cardinals in 2022, and he started working towards becoming a coach at that time. He's been the offensive quality control coach in 2023, the assistant quarterback coach in 2024, and the passing game specialist last year. So he's steadily been progressing in that coaching role and tree, right? So when you look at it, this is a young hire for the Chicago Bears. And it's a guy that, much like with Declan Doyle, when he was 28 when the Chicago Bears hired him as the offensive coordinator, Senger just graduated college in 2016, right? So this is a guy that's worked his way up in the Cardinals, but is still a very young mind, right? And so while Ben Johnson would still be, of course, the offensive play caller, we know that that's what Ben Johnson wants to do. He's not going to come off that role anytime soon. Senger isn't completely green at being an offensive guy. He called plays for East-West Shrine Bowl as well, with Sean Manaman as the other play caller, who he just landed an offensive coordinator role with the Philadelphia Eagles as well. So more interviews are going to come, but this is a really good step, and it kind of shows where Ben Johnson's mind is with the offensive coordinator role. Ben Johnson is looking at young, innovative minds that can come in here, add to their voice to the room. We heard yesterday Cole Kmet say that, Declan Doyle was extremely hands-on with the offense. He was so in the weeds with the Bears' preparation week to week, scouting ahead for teams ahead, all those type of things, holding guys accountable. So Ben Johnson still needs a guy like that in his locker room that's going to help do that. And Connor Senger could very well be that guy. And again, another young, innovative mind that can come in here. He's called plays, even though it was the Shrine Bowl. And, Declan Doyle didn't call a lot of plays for the Bears, but he did have some of that. But the Bears didn't stop there. The Bears also requested to interview another guy as well, and they keep just making this progress and trying to interview guys. And so, Ben Johnson slowly but surely is going through these candidates and trying to find the right guy for their coordinator role. Willie, that remains to be seen, but, Ben it seems like he has his mind on what he needs to have it on. And that's a good part of all of this. If Ben Johnson continues to find the right guys, that's what it's going to be for this team. And, we'll see what it comes down to it, man. So, as right now, Connor Senger is a guy that definitely can help the Chicago Bears out. We like him. Is a guy that can come in here and definitely help the Bears. Troy Walters is a guy that I kind of would have liked if the Bears were able to bring him in. But, hey, it didn't happen. It didn't work out. He's choosing to stay where he is. He's going to have guys there that he's going to look to develop and stuff like that. So, but when you look at what the Bears are looking for, and even what they were looking at with Troy Walters and trying to bring Troy Walters in here, like, this is a guy that, he was the OC of UCF before, right? This is a guy that, he has experience in what he's had with competition. This guy that's seen development of like T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, stuff like that. So, while it seems like Ben Johnson is maybe looking for another Declan Doyle where he can find one, we'll see what happens there, man. I trust Ben Johnson to get this right, though. I think Ben Johnson is going to get this right where he can, and I think that he's gonna continue to look and go over a lot of candidates. Probably going to get about 4 or 5 candidates interviewed for this position. Probably a lot of them externally too, because he kind of already knows his guys internally. But we'll see what happens with that one. But moving on from that, I want to talk about the Chicago Bears running back room, right? And I want to talk about the confidence level heading into that room and what decisions may have to be made with running back. Now, we know the defensive line is the primary focus by the Chicago Bears. The linebacker room is probably a little shortly after that as well, secondary, and then also depth with that offensive line. But the Bears have some things that they need to address. But I want to talk about the running back room. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because there wasn't a huge lot of confidence coming into this running back room. When you look at how the offseason went for the Bears with the draft, right, and missing out on so many of the running back candidates that, all of us wanted. Like, we didn't get a single guy that I spent the whole offseason reviewing running back candidates, and it ended up being the 7th round pick in Kyle Monangai that came in here and played a really good role. But I want to talk about the state of the running back room heading into 2026 offseason, because what would the Bears have to do with that running back room? First, let's look at DeAndre Swift, right? Has another year under contract. 2025 for DeAndre Swift was 223 carries, 1,087 yards, a career high for him, 9 touchdowns, 34 receptions, 299 yards there, and a touchdown there as well. His first year with the Chicago Bears was a down year, but DeAndre Swift came back with a revamped offensive line and showed, hey, with a better offensive line, I got something for you. You saw the confidence start building with DeAndre Swift, and he helped lead the charge. He was a really good running back for the Chicago Bears last year, and I'm really excited to see what he can bring into with this year, right? The Bears didn't need to do a whole lot of upgrading there. DeAndre Swift with the upgrades on the offensive line was great. DeAndre Swift had an amazing season. Then you look at Kyle Monangai, right? In 2025, as a rookie drafted in the 7th round, Kyle Monangai had 169 carries, 783 yards, 5 touchdowns, 18 receptions for 164 yards as well. And while the Bears missed on some of their early targets, reportedly, they wanted some of those guys earlier on, they got 7th round pick with Kyle Monangai and out of Rutgers, and this guy ended up being a really good. Passed up Travis Homer, passed up Roschon Johnson. Those guys did have injuries as well. But with Kyle Monangai's running style and how it helped pair with DeAndre Swift, it was just there. That hard-nosed rushing style that he brings, that always falling forward aspect that he brings, he never shied away from contact. Kyle Monangai was an important player for the Chicago Bears offense, and I'm super excited to see what he brings in 2026. Now, those two guys are locked in. We feel very confident about DeAndre Swift, and we feel very confident about Kyle Monangai. But there are still questions with this running back room. DeAndre Swift doesn't have a contract after next season, right? So does that leave the Chicago Bears in a place where they feel like, hey, let's go ahead. We got other things that we need to draft first, but if a running back's on the board that we like, will we take that? And that's a question that, only Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, only those guys will really know what happens there and what the Bears' plans are, if they would even be open to drafting a running back in that. But, hey, if they are, it makes some sense. Roschon Johnson is done. I don't see a world. Let me not say that. I don't know if they would bring him back. I don't know if they should bring him back. Roschon Johnson has been a bunch of potential, and some look at some promise, but at the end of the day, Roschon has just not been great. Now, he does have a contract for next year at $1.3 million, but when you have guys like Britton Brown as well, Deion Hankins, who we didn't see a lot, these guys are also under contract, Roschon is not only going to have to stay healthy, but he's going to have to show that he can be more than just productive, right? He only had 2 carries and 17 yards in 2025. He had more tackles than carries when it came down to it. But I tell you what, Roschon's production has dipped every year since he was drafted in 2023, and therefore, I don't know if you can count him as part of the future. Now, we know that Roschon had some talent. I remember the clip that went viral. Was it Luke Getsy still that was here when we drafted Roschon Johnson? He was like, hey, that kid's good. And look, for what it's worth, he did look like that. But between injuries and everything else, Roschon has just not been what we wanted. Travis Homer in 2025, -2 yards on the season. Don't bring him back, right? Now, you do have the guys that I mentioned before. Britton Brown, who had 5 carries, 37 yards, and 1 touchdown. This is a guy that, was a former 7th-round pick by the Las Vegas Raiders. He appeared in only 3 games for us. He had a solid preseason. But I can't say that I look at him a guy to say you can't possibly upgrade from, but he could also bring some depth for the Chicago Bears. Same thing with Deion Hankins, right? Could he bring some added depth for the Chicago Bears next year? But I think overall, looking at the confidence in this running back room, I have confidence in Kyle Monangai, confidence in DeAndre Swift. But the depth after that part all becomes very questionable. Now, running back in the NFL is one of the most easily replaced positions, right? I think it's fair to say that. I don't think people are going to take it as disrespectful to say that. It just is. So the question that you have to ask yourself now for the Chicago Bears is, do you sign, right, a player? Do you feel like, because running backs are almost a dime a dozen. You can sign, we've seen it, depth pieces that can step in and start for you with the Chicago Bears. But I do think I expect Kyle Monangai to take a step forward. I expect DeAndre Swift, as long as we have the offensive line that we do, to continue to play and perform at the level that he has. But it just becomes about how, again, we didn't have very many injuries as far as to those 2 guys on the season. But are you going to have another season of that? I think the Bears are going to need a little bit more depth at the running back position. How we go about, and again, it's not something that we need to address early in free agency. It's not something we need to address early in the draft, but it is something that I would want to see the Bears, unless the Bears are confident in Britton Brown and Deion Hankins to bring something to this team. They're low cost-effective contracts, and if those guys can bring it to the running back room, maybe we're fine there. But I want to hear from you guys on that one. How would you feel? What's your confidence level with the running back room, the depth? Not only just the top 2 pieces, because I think we're all pretty confident in that, but also the depth aspect of it. Let me know what you guys feel on that down below. Let's go ahead and go into, we got one voicemail that I want to play today. This one's from Darius.
What's going on, guys? Darius from Dallas, man. Just wanted to call in and give a couple quick thoughts. There's been a lot of, talk about, who we need to let go, who we need to get rid of DJ, Cole Kmet, all those type of guys. I got my own thoughts about DJ Moore and, but as far as Cole Kmet and, DeAndre Swift and maybe some guys that are productive, but we could technically just replace their production in the draft. I know your point of view of it, Haize, is, hey, we finally, as Bears fans, have good, talented players. Why let them go? And I'll tell you why I think it's okay to let them go. Because we have Ben Johnson, and because we have the coaching staff that we have and the culture that we've created, we've now moved into one of those organizations like the Ravens, like the Patriots, particularly the Patriots, back in the day, man, they believed in the system more than the players. And they believe that they could, they've had a couple playmakers. Don't get me wrong. Patriots have had Hall of Famers play for them. But when it gets close to end of contracts, Patriots let your ass go because they look at it like, hey, we're not going to overpay for something that we can go get in the draft and groom it up again to be just like you. So what's the point? Why hold on to DJ Moore? We can go get another quarterback, another wide receiver rather, that's got, basically his talent and groom him up. And we just need a guy that'll come in and believe in the system. We don't have to have, super ultra talented guys at, all 11 positions on the field anymore. I really do believe we have a team where we can believe in the system. Now it's time to just put guys in place and get that production without having to pay as much. So I'm not doubting DJ Moore's talent, but the fact of the matter is you saw what he was. Okay. He was not the number 1 option at any point in the year. I don't feel like. A lot of times he would even feel like the number 2 option. Okay. So we can't pay $25 million or whatever the hell to a number 4 option. We just can't. I think with what we got to do with fixing this defense, man, there's just going to be a lot of guys that have to go. And I don't want Bears fans to panic. Okay. Because this is a successful system now. Okay. I'm not saying it's easy to find talented players. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that if you get players that buy in is all that matters right now. So relax. There's going to be some guys gone. I just know how our fan base is, and everybody going to freak out. But hey, man, we got a system and a winning organization, and anybody that gets plugged into it, we're going to have success. Texas up, bear down.
Listen, Darius, and there are a lot of Bears fans that agree with you. And like I said, I'm at the standpoint that if you can keep your talent, you keep them. So if you can restructure DJ Moore, if he agrees to that and do it to where it frees you up space to do some other things, I'm great. I'm happy with that. But if you do need to trade him so that way you can free up that space and then go after and fix your defensive line, I'm okay with that too. I'm at the place now when it comes to DJ Moore to where I'm absolutely fine if he stays, but I understand the business aspect if you guys have to, if the Bears have to move on from him as well. I understand that, right? So, there are teams that definitely need wide receiver help, and that he can help those teams and come in there and play a big role for them. So, listen, I have it. DJ Moore does have talent, and I'm glad that you said that, because it's not from the place that, we got to get rid of DJ Moore because he's trash, because that's not the case at all. But when you look at roster building, sometimes you got to do something, move off from some things, and free up some space so you can get bigger. Like the wide receiver room, if we got rid of DJ Moore with Luther Burden and Rome Odunze, I trust that we can find a cost-effective slot receiver to fill that out. With Colston Loveland as well there, and how he can even be a slot at times, I think that we can go out and get that done. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the talent level of DJ Moore. And then you also got to look at the progression. Rome, Luther, how do they take another step in the offseason as well? So I'm fine, and I understand if the Bears have to move on from DJ Moore. It's not this thing where I'm like, oh my God, you can't possibly trade DJ Moore. I think there's some smoke there. And I think, especially with how the season ended, but the Bears have to ultimately make the decision that's best for them and where the roster is going. And we'll see what that ends up, Darius. But great voicemail there. Thank you for leaving that. But that's going to be my time for today, y'all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Chicago Bears Central. But I want to hear from you guys. Who do you guys think will be the next offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears? On a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you in the running back room heading into the offseason as well? Drop your comments down below. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel as well. Make sure you guys are following us at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.